I miss the days when misspellings were common. Never thought I'd ever say that, but here I am. I have a friend I've known for quite a long time. We'll call him Rob here so he can stay anonymous. Rob and I were introduced by a mutual friend in Australia about 20 years ago. We hit it off pretty much straight away. Great guy, unbelievable wit and sense of humor. And over the years, he and I ended up building a beautiful friendship. We accompanied each other through many life changes: homes, jobs, relationships. Then we each got married to wonderful people, still remain great friends, just added our respective spouses to the mix. And life kept unfolding as it does. Progressively, though, we started seeing each other less and less. Couldn't always make it to each other's invitations. Then Rob and his lovely wife had a child. My husband and I got a dog. And then I moved back to France after more than 20 years overseas. Big move for me. I had my hands full. You know, trying to readjust to a country I had left when I was 19 years old. But when I left Australia, it had always been my intention to stay in touch with the close friends I'd made there. And for a while I did. I mean, nowadays we have no excuse. The pigeon must have lost a letter. No longer a usable justification, is it? We have email and WhatsApp, and I know there's plenty more ways to communicate, but I'm old-fashioned. I just stick to email and WhatsApp. I'm like one of those old people who refused to get a mobile phone when they first came out. Anyhow, long story short, after my move back to France a few years ago, exchanges between Rob and me became more and more rare. And in the last couple of years, they've been reduced to birthday wishes by email. But that's not the worst part. Last year, I sent Rob an email for his birthday. I had barely pressed send when I received a reply. I thought, gee, Rob must have supersonic fingers now. Then I read the email, and it felt odd, neat, polite, and a bit off in the way it made reference to something I'd written in my own email. Had Rob hired a secretary maybe, and he'd asked her to reply on his behalf? Seriously, I must have read that email a dozen times. It just didn't quite sound like him. You see, at the time, I didn't know much about AI at all. I had barely heard of ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and God knows what else is out there. Listen, I live in the middle of nowhere. Things take time to come to me. But I did eventually learn about AI, and I now use it for various tasks, and I love it. But now that I know how AI works, I can see things that honestly I would rather not see. This year, when I sent Rob an email for his birthday, he didn't reply as quickly as he had the previous time, but when he did, I knew immediately that he hadn't written the reply himself. And this time, I knew straight away who had. AI. I'm sure you've noticed AI has a very particular way of expressing itself. You know, where a human can be quite random, not random, where a human can be quite imperfect in the way they communicate. AI is clear, precise, very much pattern oriented. And it does try very hard to sound like the human who's using it. And that's the problem. It tries too hard. So this time again, I get this reply from Rob, except Rob didn't actually write it himself. And suddenly, there's this movie running in my mind of all the great times Rob and I shared over many years of friendship, you know, like on the cinema screen. And then, bam, that email is like a giant ice pick being thrown at it, tearing the whole screen down. Oh, yeah, you can roll your eyes and call me dramatic, but that's how I felt. Apparently, Rob had decided that our friendship was no longer deserving of even a two-line email written by him. he'd send his minion instead, with a beautiful paragraph filled with metaphors and perfect syntax. Now, I appreciate myself enough that I did not take that as a green light to feel horrible about myself or start questioning my own self worth. And of course, Rob is perfectly entitled to make his own choices. And maybe I could have written more. But this whole thing still made me very sad. This doesn't only happen to me, unfortunately. People no longer have time for other people. Actually, let me correct this. People no longer make time for other people. It seems to me it wasn't that long ago that the people of my generation and the generation of my parents were baffled by the number of misspelled words the younger ones had in their writing. Not just in school essays, but in emails and text messages. You know, we'd say things like, the youth is doomed. They can't spell anymore. They don't know how to write. But now, perfect writing is becoming the norm, and not for good reasons. Can we bring back the hesitation, the doubt, the pondering in our written communication with our fellow humans? You know, questions like, how do you spell that? Does that sound right? What else could I add? And answer those questions ourselves? I miss misspellings and human awkwardness.